Pastor Shafer, the senior pastor at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Each week, we'll be talking to a variety of guests, local and national and around the world, and asking them about hope in their lives. And today, we're so honored to have as one of our first guests, the Bishop of the Southwest California Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, the Reverend Dr. Guy Erwin, who is in his second term as bishop and is a dear friend of mine, besides being my boss, so to speak. And welcome, Guy. We're so glad you're with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you.
Guy, I want to get to our hope question, but you're a pioneer in a lot of ways in the ELCA, the first openly gay bishop, the first American Indian bishop, and those are wonderful things to celebrate. I suspect it was more of a mixed bag for you.
Oh, I don't know. In fact, I think this pioneer idea fits in really well with your question of where I find hope, because I am in some ways an unlikely person to be in the role I'm in, but on the other hand, in many ways, I was a perfectly logical choice. As the church has changed and moved on, the election of an openly gay bishop was not an inevitability then, but it perhaps was eventually. Now, of course, we have a second one already, and I can feel like I'm no longer a unique character. I'm not a cradle Lutheran, as they say. I came to Lutheranism in college as a convert, and so I take very seriously the idea that our church is not just an association of people who are Lutherans by birthright, but those who choose our particular theology and confession of faith as the one they want to identify with in their lives. And it gives me hope that there are people also like me who come to our church from outside. There are lots of other things that give me hope, though, too. I'm really proud to be able to be the first in these two categories. I know I'm not the last in one already, and I hope I'm not the last in the other. And I really think this is a sign of the maturing of our church into the diversity that it has so longed for so many years.
But I think you were also, you were elected the year before I came, as you know, but I followed that election because I knew you. And what I heard was, yes, it's significant for these reasons, but we're picking a person we know and love who is a scholar, a leader, a lover of the church, and those are the reasons you were elected bishop.
Yeah, it's certainly true that I was well known in the synod and had become, in a way, one of the synod's public teachers. My predecessor as bishop had used me very extensively as an instructor in lay theological education in our synod. So I knew quite a lot of people through that. And my position at California Lutheran University, where I was a professor of Lutheran studies, also had provision for me to teach in the church. So I felt empowered both by the church and the university to actually get involved in the life of congregations and to contribute to the education of lay people. And since I came to this by learning about it seems to me very important that we continue to learn about it. No one is a Lutheran just by default. You have to believe in something. And there are very many convinced Lutherans who happen to have been born into the tradition, but they learned it as well. And every generation and every decade brings a new need for further learning.
Wonderful. Sometimes we both lament that the ELCA is one of the whitest churches in North America. But here in Southwest California Synod, we're blessed with being nearly 25% non-white. Was it 22%? I think the last figure I heard.
I think we reached 25% last time.
Wonderful. And so while we have a long way to go, that is something to be proud of. If you don't mind me switching to this, because I know you have spoken on this. These are terrible times for non-white people again. And, especially for Black people, but it ain't so easy to be brown, and Asians are being blamed for this virus. Where is the hope for the non-white population in the year 2020?
That's a good question. I can't speak for everyone, but I find hope in the fact that every time the issue is brought to a sharp point by some example of injustice that is inescapable and compelling to those who have witnessed it, I think we grow more united in our opposition to it in its systemic form. The challenge is that on the one hand, we have people who live the experience of racism every day of their lives, and they are deeply weary of that experience. Even I, as a person who is white appearing, my native ancestry reminds me, in a sense, every day that I'm part of something that I'm not entirely part of, and that I live in a country that is inhabited, in a sense, by the ghosts of ancestors and relatives who were displaced or eliminated as inconvenient to the white settlers who came. And so I think we live in a kind of haunted country, haunted by the specter of genocide and displacement on the one side and of slavery on the other. And it has been a remarkable thing that so many of our white fellow citizens have been able to live without understanding that. It's something that's constant for everyone who's non-white. But as we move forward, I do feel like there's a mounting sense of solidarity and a growing appreciation of diversity. Of course, it's easier to say that living in Los Angeles, because we have such an extraordinarily diverse community. There is just nothing about Los Angeles that is uniform at all. And we're quickly losing any sense that there's a hegemony on anyone's part. And that's a good thing, I think. The rest of the country is not in that position. The rest of the ELCA is not in the position of the Southwest California Synod. But we can at least model it for others and be a place where the conversations happen that everyone needs to have. So I find hope in the fact that more people who are not people of color know the story and the struggles of people of color than I think has ever been the case before.
That's wonderful. Thank you. When you let me try to, we can edit this a little bit here. I guess, the more general question, and you've hinted at this already, but, what gets you up in the morning? Obviously, there's something involved in hope that gets us all going. Wake up in the morning and what sort of things go through your head that help you get through your day, especially in this time of safer at home?
Yes, that is a bit of a challenge. I mean, the challenge is not so much getting up as getting dressed, but in my work, I find the moment that the church is in right now to be one of great challenge and great promise at the same time, because in a way, we're losing some of the props that have kept us up for a long time. That is a sense of kind of tribal identity as people of particular ethnicities whose religious affiliation comes in large part by birthright. This is fading, and it won't sustain the Lutheran Church in the United States for very much longer. So we're having to rediscover what it is we're for, not just who we are, but why we are. And this is a bit of a struggle. We're going in multiple directions at once. For some, it's the model of a progressive mainline denomination. For others, it's a retreat into confessionalism. But we have to figure out a way to be authentic, to be meaningful, and to create some kind of identity that can keep us together as the particular kind of Christians we are. Or we have to acknowledge that our moment in the history of Christianity in the United States may have come to an end, and ally ourselves with those most like us, so that as the kind of church we are, we can persist in collaboration with ecumenical partners. I mean, I don't think we have to choose one of these narrowly. I think in some ways, the challenge of being church has always been playing in all the fields at once and being nimble enough to understand that things don't happen in a linear way. But certainly anyone who's interested in the dynamics of change would would enjoy this moment in some ways, because it's stimulating, surprising, unpredictable, and the fruits are really significant. This is about religious identity and preserving it or having it absorbed into something larger. And as a scholar of religion, that's fascinating. As a church leader, as a bishop, I find that the accompaniment aspect of this is really interesting. Being with people as they process their own understanding of this reality and manage change in their own lives and in their own congregations. I find this endlessly interesting. So I get up every morning wanting to be engaged with the people in the synod because I learn so much from it. And I think this is a story that continues to be fascinating, even as it unfolds.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we could go on, you and I think, but would you have any concluding thoughts as you're thinking about hope and hope for the person who's looking at this video and we just lost your photo there, John. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Let's again.
I'll start over. I had an incoming call which took away the camera.
No, that's all right. We got through your whole. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think looking in a broad sense at the things that give me hope, I find this moment, first the moment of the pandemic, and then the racial conversation that we're having in the country now, and of course, which is part of a very long one and will go on forever. I find these themselves to be signs of hope. I mean, you might think it's strange to find hope in a pandemic, but it has shown us that we are not as dependent on the ways of being church as we might have thought we were. We do have the capacity to adapt. We have the ability to use modern media, including social media, to get our message across. In a time of emergency, we can hold together without being able to gather physically in a building. These are not things any of us would have wanted to discover in any other way. I mean, it's simply the necessity of this historic moment that has driven us to it. But the learnings are profound, and I hope that they stick with us for some time. On the front of the racial conversation, as I say, every time we have this, I see more white people understand better the challenges faced by every person of color in this country. And I do think it has to do that progress will have to do with the conviction of white people that they share responsibility for the way things are. It's easy, if one is the beneficiary of a system set up for one's own benefit, to simply enjoy it and think it is the way things ought to be. One doesn't have the constant reminder and humiliation of being outside that system. But every year, every month, and now really from day to day, I see people growing in their understanding of the experience of others. And that's how we get there, is by understanding each other, by witnessing, by participating, by standing together in protests and in projects and work, and learning about each other. And I see our church really growing in this way at this time. That gives me great hope for the future.
Thank you, Guy. We want to thank our guest today on Hope Matters, the Reverend Dr. Guy Erwin, Bishop of the Southwest California Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We're so grateful for your time with us today, Bishop, and want to invite our viewers to return again. We're just beginning this series of interviews, and we will be bringing other guests to you, all under the theme of hope. Hope matters, my friends, in 2020 and whatever it is, because we have a God of hope who loves us and saves us and keeps us no matter what. So thank you for joining us today. This is Hope Matters, Mount Olive Lutheran Church. Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you.